Some men don't fall to bullets. They fall to silence. To holding back what should have been shouted. To walking past what they should have confronted. Ever sit up at night, wondering if you missed your one chance to do something right? Elias Carter had. He hadn't heard his name spoken like it meant anything in years. The world didn't pause to see if he was still drawing breath. It just kept spinning. One day he had a wife. The next, he had nothing but a patch of earth out behind the barn. That morning, Elias wasn't searching for trouble. Just another chore, another fence rail splintered by time. Until he noticed the bundle. It hung crooked under a cottonwood tree, swinging lazy in the wind. The kind of thing a man usually rides past. Because out here, ignoring trouble often keeps you alive. But something about it felt wrong. Too still. Too quiet. He nudged his horse closer, squinting beneath the brim of his hat. The sack wasn't tied right, looked more thrown than placed. Sun-bleached burlap ragged along the seams. Stains at the bottom. And then, he heard it. A sound you don't mistake once you've heard it. Not a scream. Not even a cry. Just breath. Weak. Barely hanging on. Elias dismounted slow. Careful. The sack shifted. Inside was a woman, maybe 25. Her dress was torn, skin blistered from the sun, lips split and bleeding. One wrist still coiled in rusted wire. She didn't beg. She didn't scream. She only whispered it, like she was already gone. Just, kill me fast. Elias froze. Then he knelt, pulled back the thin cover draped across her. And what he saw twisted his gut. Not because the wounds were fresh. But because whoever did this wanted her ruined forever. They hadn't left her to die. They'd left her to disappear. The Carter ranch wasn't much to look at. A porch sagging with dust. 2 rocking chairs nobody ever used. A roof that groaned louder than a drunk whenever the wind rolled through. But for her, it was safety. The closest thing she'd felt in years. Elias didn't ask her name. Didn't ask what happened. Didn't ask why she'd been dumped like garbage under a tree. He didn't ask anything. And maybe that's the reason she stayed. She didn't sleep in the bed. Instead, she curled up near the stove, like a creature that didn't trust soft places anymore. She flinched when the kettle hissed. Her eyes lingered on the door like she was waiting for it to crash open. Most days, she said nothing. Just sipped what Elias poured into the tin cup and picked at bread like it might be poisoned. But she was still there. And that counted for something. Elias wasn't one for talk either. He kept busy, mending fence, feeding the stock, leaving food for her as though it were routine. And maybe it was. Maybe the quiet between them had its own kind of language. A week passed. Then one morning, while Elias was splitting logs, she stepped outside. Her hair tied back with a strip of cloth. Shoulders straight, though stiff, like she had to remind herself how to stand tall. She didn't say a word. Just watched him swing the axe. Then she bent, picked up a log, and placed it on the block. He didn't stop her. They worked in silence. 2 souls who'd run out of words long before they'd ever met. That night, by the fire, she finally whispered a single sentence. "You didn't touch me." Elias looked at her but didn't speak. She nodded once. Like that was enough. Like that told her more than any words could. For the first time, she finished her meal. Every bite. And then, she smiled. Not wide. Not easy. But real. If that was the end of it, you'd think this story was about healing. About good men and second chances. But healing doesn't come easy. Not out here. And the past has a way of riding back into town. The quiet didn't last. It never does. It started with hoofprints. Fresh ones sunk deep into the dirt near the south fence. Elias spotted them just as the sunrise cut across the land. They weren't his. And they weren't from town either. He didn't tell her. Just checked his rifle and circled the ranch twice that day. That night, she sat closer to the fire. Said she couldn't sleep. Said something felt wrong. And that's when he saw it. The mark burned into the inside of her wrist. A crude tattoo. 3 letters. JKS. Elias had seen it once before. Years back, on a drunken Bisbee who bragged too loud about things no man should boast about. Back then, Elias turned away. Told himself it wasn't his business. But now, those same letters were carved into her skin. And that made it his business. The next morning, Elias rode into Tombstone. Not to talk. To listen. 3 girls missing in 4 months. 2 from Texas, 1 from Santa Fe. All young. All gone without a sound. And no one was doing a damn thing. The sheriff muttered about no evidence, no witnesses, no point stirring panic. Elias just nodded. Thanked him. Rode out quiet. But something had cracked inside him. Because this time, it wasn't just about justice. It was about her. That night, under the dim glow of the oil lamp, she asked why he'd gone to town. Elias kept cleaning the rifle barrel and said low. Sometimes bad men need to know someone's still watching. Her hand brushed his, just for a moment. And that's when he knew, this wasn't just her second chance. It was his too. Elias didn't ride in like a dime novel cowboy. He moved quiet. Deliberate. Through dry creek beds and winding canyons, the kind only locals and coyotes knew. He found their camp just after sundown. A shack leaned against a cliffside, smoke twisting from the chimney. Laughter spilled out. Rough voices. The kind that made your skin crawl. He tied his horse low, then crept up the back trail. Waited. Watched. When the bottle clinked for the 3rd time, that's when he moved. He kicked the door wide. The first man stood fast, too fast. Took the rifle but square in the chest. The second grabbed for his belt. Elias fired a warning shot clean through the lantern. Glass shattered, smoke filled the room. Sparks hissed. The third man dropped his knife before he'd even lifted it. Silence. Elias stepped forward. A girl huddled in the corner. Couldn't meet his eyes. Didn't need to. He set his coat over her shoulders, turned once toward the men, and said, "She's not yours. She never was. And if I hear you lay a hand on another girl, you won't get a second warning." He walked her out into the night. Part 5, The Weight of Justice. In Tombstone, Elias dropped the broken knife and the girl's torn dress on the sheriff's desk. That was enough. This time, the law finally acted. When he rode back home, she was waiting at the gate. She didn't cry. Didn't ask questions. She just looked at him, like maybe, just maybe, not all men were rotten. And Elias, for the first time in a long while, didn't feel hollow. He felt like he'd stood for something. It wasn't a love story. Not the kind you find in cheap paperbacks or whispered under lamplight. But it was something. She stayed. Not because she had to. Because she chose to. The days grew quieter. Softer. She tended the garden, planting herbs her grandmother once taught her. Brushed the horses without flinching. Even hummed once while sweeping the porch. Elias noticed, but never said a word. Some things lose their meaning if you speak them too soon. He still fixed fences. Still woke before dawn. But now there was a second cup on the table each morning. A second pair of boots by the door. She still slept in the room across the hall. And that was enough. Some nights they shared coffee beneath the stars. No words. Just company. The kind that speaks louder than talking. One evening, as the sun bled across the hills, she asked, "Why did you come back for me?" Elias thought a moment. Then said, "Quiet. Because someone had to." She nodded. That was all. You see, life doesn't always hand us what we deserve. But sometimes, it gives us someone who sees we're worth more than we believe. And that changes everything. Elias never asked her to stay. And she never promised she would. But every morning, she opened the door. And every night, she came home. Love doesn't always arrive like fire. Sometimes it comes like rain on old wood. Like forgiveness. Like starting over. Now let me ask you something. What would you do if someone showed up at your door needing more than just a bed? Would you shut your eyes and pretend you didn't see? Or would you open that door? And maybe save a piece of yourself in the process? If this story stirred something in you, if it reminded you that redemption still matters in a broken world, tap that like button. And if you believe in stories with grit, heart, and truth, hit subscribe. Because there are more of them waiting. Some already lived. Some still waiting to be told. And maybe, just maybe, one of them might be yours.